additional costs that come into play when you're moving and starting over. So leave yourself lots of flexibility in that regard.
Let's talk about some of the planning for the unexpected. We try to plan for our retirement, but what about the unexpected, like an accident, a disability, unfortunate divorce?
Very, very tough, to plan for things that you know are coming down the pike, like college and retirement. That's one thing. But as you said, it's very difficult to anticipate things that you hope will never happen and be ready for it. Well, the first thing is everyone should have a disaster fund. Everyone should have, as difficult as it is, 3 to 6 months of operating expenses, living expenses, 3 to 6 months in a savings account at a minimum, whatever it takes to get there. So have an emergency fund there. That would be the first thing. And then I think make sure that you manage your insurance coverages. Make sure that you have good life insurance, good disability insurance, good insurance to protect major assets like your home and your auto, and make sure you have adequate insurance coverages, have an emergency fund, and then leave some flexibility in your budget so that you're not stretched to the hilt.
Okay. We talked a little bit about credit cards and borrowing. Is there anything else on that particular responsible actions that one should take?
Well, that relates to borrowing. And I think that first of all, people need to know that there are a lot of resources. Let me mention a couple. There's a site called mymoney.gov that is a site that provides all kinds of resources for smart money tips, basically, and that it covers all of these areas. And there's another one, lovemycreditunion.com, where we have a financial resource center available to people. But we've talked about borrowing, we've talked about saving. We haven't talked very much about investing and planning for retirement. And the first thing there is to make sure that if your company offers access to a 401k plan, take advantage of it, especially if they're providing matching dollars. If you have access to an individual retirement account, if your income is below a threshold that allows that, take advantage of that, and try to plan for retirement as much as you can. It's a sad truth that in our country, I heard someone say once that more people in this country would prefer to have a flat screen TV than plan for retirement. And sadly, I think that's true. So we have to prioritize these things so that we're ready for retirement, we're borrowing prudently, and we're saving. It's just common sense, but very important that we do it.
Sure. Now, how do we help our children to learn good habits?
Well, it all starts at home, doesn't it? And I think that the first thing we can do is be good, just like with everything in parenting, is try to be a good example. But also, don't fool ourselves into thinking that our kids think that we're perfect and we don't make mistakes. So often I think it's helpful to share our mistakes. Share the stories about the things that we did wrong at all stages of our lives with regard to money management. Even share some examples of family members in an appropriate way to help kids know the consequences of good financial behavior versus bad financial behavior. So I think leading by example, sharing stories, and then I think also taking the time to talk about these things with our children. When young people are surveyed that go to college, about 70% of them indicate that they wish that they had received a bit more guidance from their parents to help them be ready for that stage of their lives.
Are there tools available to help in this kind of act?
That's the good news again, Senator. There are a lot of good tools. I mentioned mymoney.gov, lovemycreditunion.com, and the wonderful thing about the internet is you can Google just about anything and find all kinds of help online, tips and guidelines for how to do all this. So once you make the commitment, gain access to the resources, the biggest and most important part is to make a commitment, just like with physical fitness. Make a commitment that you're going to get better in all these areas. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. We're not going to solve all the problems overnight. With kids, for instance, let's just think about some of the basic things, like encouraging them how to save, and get after that.
Now, are there activities or resources at different ages that can help you in teaching your young people?
Well, obviously, most parents give an allowance to their kids, and I think that's a wise thing to agree on a certain level of allowance money and tie it to chores around the house and so on. But at the same time, talk with them about the importance of saving a portion of that. And so I think an allowance and encouraging saving is part of that. And I think any kind of family activity where you can get together and talk as a family about your goals. So for instance, set a family goal for that family vacation. You know, too often parents do that in isolation. Mom and dad talk about the vacation and then they spring it on the kids. Why not bring them into that and have everybody set a goal and maybe have everybody contribute to it?
Okay. A lot of nice, helpful hints. Can credit unions help individuals if you're not a member, if you are a member? Who would you even contact in your home credit union area?
Well, I mentioned that 40% of our population in Michigan belong to a credit union. The other 60% don't. The good news is that everyone in Michigan is eligible to join a credit union. I would encourage everyone to join a credit union, first of all. Once you're a member of a credit union, you know, your credit union has all kinds of resources available to help you with youth programs for smart money matters, as well as managing your own financial affairs in all these aspects: saving, borrowing, investing, planning for retirement. And I think the good thing about credit unions is they really are a trusted advisor because they are not-for-profit, and that is their sole motive is service.
Okay. And it's free, I take it? Or
absolutely. Free to join a credit union. And oftentimes credit union fees are a little bit lower and the rates are a little bit better on savings and loan products. And so just by being a member of a credit union, a household can save several hundreds of dollars a year. But the extra benefit is that you have these trusted advisors that can help you make smart money decisions.
Going back to some of these scams that are out there, are there any that you have heard of in the last couple months that people should in particular look out for? Well,
I mentioned the phishing, the online phishing. You know, to use the example that I gave, I use home banking and bill pay online.
Yep.
It's a tremendous service. And when I'm getting email after email, supposedly from my credit union, saying we need you to come and log on to this site and provide your information, you know, that kind of thing is really dangerous because once they get that information, they have access to my account online and they can do all kinds of things. So I think that kind of phishing scam is a real problem. Anytime somebody's calling you on the phone, and I think seniors are particularly susceptible, where people are calling asking for information, just be on guard, make sure you know who you're dealing with. And then still the largest area of fraud is still credit card fraud. We use our plastic cards for everything. And while the financial institution does stand behind you in mitigating those risks, the reality is that it's a huge inconvenience if someone has their identity stolen. So to avoid that inconvenience of having to get everything corrected, check your credit report regularly, just watch your documents closely, and be on guard.
Who do you contact if you suspect that you're involved in some sort of fraud or scam or identity theft?
Well, I think you should contact your financial institution and you should contact law enforcement to give them any information that you have that could lead to the arrest of those individuals. Your financial institution will help make sure that there are holds placed on accounts and cards reissued and so on.
Okay. And you call the local police department, local sheriff? Is that
There's also a great resource at the, I don't have the website, but the Michigan Attorney General website has some great information on how to avoid some of these scams.
Okay. Is there any other thoughts that you want to leave the audience with on any of these particular topics?
Well, I think I would just sum it up by saying this. Financial literacy is a huge problem in our country. You figure if in the last 2 years we're spending more than we're saving, and as a country we're not saving where we have in past years, what that means is we're going to have less available as a society to spend in the future. We're going to be less prepared for retirement, and it'll have economic implications that are huge. But on an individual family basis, the same is true. We just have to be I want to encourage everybody to make a commitment, get access to the resources that are out there, and get started making you and your family more financially fit, because it'll pay huge dividends down the road.
And like any diet or exercise program, sometimes you fall off the wagon.
Right. And just like that, we're going to be healthier, and we're going to be happier when we're healthy physically. We're going to be happier when we're healthy financially as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time today, and thank you for viewing In Touch with Northern Michigan, and we'll see you next month.